answers. So I learned something new. But welcome everyone to today's webinar. We're here to talk about fundraising for furry or not so furry friends, ideas to support animal service nonprofits. So thank you all for being here with us today. So a little housekeeping, we are recording this webinar. So you'll receive a link to the recording along with the slide deck that I'm presenting from today, in addition to some great resources that we're going to reference during the call. Also, feel free to ask us questions. So make sure you use the Q&A option to ask those questions as opposed to the chat function. And we'll have some time at the end of the call to get to those questions. We're going to speak for about 45 minutes today. So if anybody needs to hop, no worries. You can always email those questions later. But let's go ahead and get started. So a few introductions are in order. My name is Caitlin Lipham, and I'm the Customer Marketing Manager here at QGive. I've been at QGive for about a year. I get to do a lot of really great things in my role here, but what I love to be a part of the most is having a hand in helping to create resources for fundraisers and host webinars like this. Because I used to be in your shoes, I was a fundraiser for about 7 years with the American Cancer Society. I was a senior development manager, worked with a lot of volunteers, great events. So I love that I can take that experience and use it in my new role at QGive. Now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Heidi Morris, to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Heidi. I am a customer success manager here at QGive. I've been with QGive for just about 4 years. And I'm very, very passionate about customer service and love helping our clients find unique and creative ways to raise money for their cause. I have the entire animal segment here in QGive, so I always have tons and tons of examples. With that being said, I'm excited to share some of those with you today and look forward to following up with y'all.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's a little bit about Heidi and I on the professional side. Now on the personal side, another reason why we're so excited to be with you all today is we are both animal lovers. These are our pups up here on the screen. You can see my dog Molly. She's got her party hat on because she's really excited. You guys are on the call today. And then I wanted to pass it back to Heidi for a second to give a little context to this picture with her pup Lexi.
So this is Lexi. She's my 7-year-old Shih Tzu, and that is her green bowl, her infamous green bowl that she takes everywhere, constantly has it in her mouth. It goes on vacation. She can't sleep without it. She even has her very own custom emoji with that exact picture here at QGive.
Awesome. Yes, it's one of the best emojis that we have in our Slack channel. So I love the Lexi emoji. So Heidi and I mentioned that we both work at QGive. For those of you on the call unfamiliar with QGive, we provide fundraising software for over 6,000 nonprofit clients, including our clients in the animal space. And our solutions include online donation forms, event registration forms. We have a peer-to-peer and auction platform, and we also support text fundraising. So that's a little bit about QGive for anyone not familiar. Now let's talk about what we're going to cover today on the call. So we're going to talk about the importance of a diversified fundraising approach. We're going to briefly go over and define what some of those tools are and those platforms that I referenced earlier. Then Heidi is also going to show us some event and campaign ideas from some of our clients here with QGive. And we'll share about how to leverage text messaging to reach supporters and raise more. And then we'll close by sharing where you can find some of these resources we're talking about, how QGive can help, and then we'll wrap with our Q&A session. So let's start off by talking about why it's important to diversify your fundraising approach. So as a former fundraiser, I can speak from firsthand experience that it's definitely really risky to rely on just one campaign to hit your goal. And the reason for this is, you want to make sure that you are diverse in your approach, because we know that your communities are diverse. I know that you can't necessarily come up with an event that's going to please every single person in your town or territory, but think through who those common groups are. So do you have a family-friendly event? Do you have an event that's geared more towards adults with a gala or auction component? So think through those kinds of things. And then also think through what campaigns you can have that are running year long. So maybe it's hosting different things every month, like a chance drawing or something to that effect. But the important thing to remember is you want to have an event or campaign that they're scattered throughout different points of the year and that you're going to reach people in your community. Another thing when it comes to diversifying your fundraising is that it's important to plan in advance when you're thinking about the different campaigns and events that you want to try. A big part of that, so in addition to recruiting the volunteers and event committee members and those sorts of pieces, you want to make sure that you have digital tools that you're going to need to fundraise. And another important part of that coin is that you want to make sure that those tools are easy to customize, that they're easy to use. So that way you don't have to be a coder or a graphic designer to make your event form really stand out. And then another thing I want to recognize on the call today is that I know that there's probably some varying levels of experience in the nonprofit world. So whether you just started in your role a week ago or you've been in fundraising for 20 years, I challenge everybody to not be afraid to try something new or maybe even revamp something or enhance something that you've already been doing. So that's a little bit about diversifying your fundraising and some of the things that we're going to explore more today. So now let's talk about some of the tools of the trade before I turn it over to Heidi to share some real world client examples. So we're going to discuss a little bit about donation forms, peer-to-peer events, and auctions just to kick things off. So most of you on the call are probably very familiar with online donation forms. So it's kind of like the Swiss Army knife of fundraising. It's one of the most basic things that you're going to need to make sure that you're reaching your donors where they are. We know that online processing is convenient for both staff and donors. Now, it's not just enough to make sure that your online donation forms are accessible, online, which is where a lot of people are, but think about making sure that your forms are mobile optimized. So AKA, does this form look good on a cell phone or a tablet? Is it easy to navigate? And that's because our data here at QGIve shows that 52% of donors actually choose to give via their mobile device. So that's why it's important to think about those pieces when you're setting up your online donation form, regardless of the campaign that you're going to use it for. The next platform that I want to talk about that we'll be sharing more with some of the examples that Heidi will go over is our peer-to-peer fundraising platform. For those of you on the call not familiar with peer-to-peer events, just know that this is a way of fundraising where you are recruiting and empowering supporters to fundraise on your behalf. So this could be just something that's purely virtual. Maybe it's a hybrid approach, or you've got an in-person event paired with it. You can utilize what we call as DIY fundraising, which is do-it-yourself fundraising, where again, you're training and coaching your supporters to raise on your behalf. And the other thing that's really powerful with peer-to-peer events is that you're able to reach supporters that may not have otherwise known about your organization. And then also another great thing with peer-to-peer is that it helps really create that competition amongst your fundraisers. So they're going to be competitive. They're going to want to see who can raise more. And this is a great way to engage your board or local business. And like I shared, more on peer-to-peer fundraising later on in the campaign and on the call. And another great piece when it comes to peer-to-peer fundraising is that you can arm your supporters with their own page that they can do the fundraising for online. Now, one stat that I do want to point out, there's a lot of great information here. And like I shared, we will be sending out this slide deck. And this goes back to what I said about how you're able to reach supporters that you may not have otherwise been able to reach. And that is that 39% of Americans say that they've donated to a charity based on a request from a friend or family member. So I think that really helps to justify some of the power with making sure you're incorporating some sort of peer-to-peer component within your fundraising. The last style of event that I want to talk about before I turn it over to Heidi is auctions. So I think most of you on the call are very familiar with auctions. So that could be a live or a silent auction. I personally love auctions because you can get really creative with the theme. You can pair it with an existing event. So if you're already hosting a golf tournament, why not throw in a silent auction component or even do an auction component online leading up to an event. So that's a great way to kind of like use auctions to help get the word out. So now I am going to turn it over to Heidi to share our first donation form from one of our clients. So Heidi, take it away.
All right, so the first one I'm going to show you guys is from the Pet Resource Center of Kansas City. So they have one of those standard donation forms that you see here. So first thing I want to talk about is they actually have this form embedded. So it is actually living on their website. They're not putting a donate button and clicking away and going over to our server and having a landing page there where they can donate. They actually have it embedded. And you can always see that here because they're landing on that organization's URL. So it's kind of masked behind it. The next thing I want to talk about are those new donation amount images. So some of you that maybe are current clients and don't know, we revamped our donation forms. And one of my favorite features, obviously, are these images. I love that they actually added images of their staff in the field and some of the animals from the center. They also include a short and meaningful impact statements with each amount. And then they even added those over here on the right-hand side. So both of those features create that story that we're looking for your donors. Let's scroll down just a little. Another thing that they're using that I really, really like, especially if you're having different funds or campaigns that you're trying to get people to kind of support, but you want to just use maybe one form. So they're using what we call restrictions so that their supporters can choose where they want to direct their donation to. So if it's a general donation or maybe some special medical care, or maybe it's other, they're just not sure, but they do give them that option here. They're also using our dedication. So if they're making a donation and they want to dedicate the gift, maybe in honor of or in memory of someone, they can choose that here. They can put in who they want to recognize, a little message, and the system can also send a automated message to the recipient of their choice. It's an automated email that goes out. So it saves you from having to, handwrite some letters going out. And last but not least, one of the most important things is obviously adding what we call gift assist. So it's just adding a little bit extra to that donation to help you offset those processing costs. What I really like is a lot of the wording on the form is customizable, and they really put something in here that goes, you know what, it's optional, but it really helps. So they don't make it required, which you can't really do in QGIve, but at least they're letting people know, hey, we appreciate it if you will. So this was the Pet Resource Center of Kansas City. I'm going to turn it back over to Caitlin.
Awesome. I love all of those images on that donation form, Heidi. So really great thing to share. I do want to proactively apologize. It is storming where I am in Central Florida. So if you guys hear any background thunder, just know that that's what it's coming from. So love, love, love this donation form. And again, you definitely want to make sure that you have a great, good looking form for those to help accept those year-round donations, or you could make a donation form specifically for a campaign. So maybe Giving Tuesday, some sort of year-end fundraiser, or maybe a fundraiser based around a holiday. Sky's the limit with how you can implement it. But let's talk through a couple of highlights that we saw from the example Heidi just showed us. So again, they're really keeping the visual interest strong with all of the storytelling components. They have, they're telling you tangible impacts. They're telling you what your $500 is going to do. They're educating donors on the mission as a whole. And I love the fact that this form was embedded on their website. So that means you go to their site, donate buttons there, and you can get straight to the form. You don't have to hunt around to figure out how to give this organization money. So if you can embed your general donation form, please do so on your website. And again, remember to ask donors, if regardless of the platform that you're using, if you are a QGIve client, like Heidi mentioned, you'll know this as gift assist. But you do want to ask donors to cover processing fees if you can. And the reason for that is that you're in fundraising, you know that if you don't ask, the answer is always no. And I love how, and you can see on the slide here where again, they're reiterating like, hey, this is optional. It really helps, like what Heidi showed us. So that's just a few top tips from a donation form best practices. So I'm going to turn it back to Heidi to share our next example, I believe from Brother Wolf.
Yeah, so the next one I show, like Caitlin mentioned, is from Brother Wolf Animals Rescue. So what they're doing here is they're doing a spring match challenge where all donations up to $50,000 through April 30th would be doubled by a matching gift to help the homeless animals. So you're saying, well, why did they use it peer-to-peer? Just personal choice. They chose that peer-to-peer form and just removed the ability for individuals and teams to fundraise on their behalf, and instead just chose to use it for donations for this campaign. I love the banner image, and Caitlin's going to talk a little bit later on how easy it is to create that on some free resources. But again, using images is so impactful. They even added a little slideshow here with some of the animals from the rescue, which you know that I love. And also the thermometer so that their supporters can watch their progress, see if they meet their goal. Super easy to add to the peer-to-peer form. These are just widgets that you literally can drag and drop. I'm going to go ahead and show you one other one really quick before I send it back to Caitlin. So here you can see this is the Humane Society of the Pikes Peak region, and they do a monthly e-appeal. So they create a new form each month for their monthly e-appeal campaign. And this month's e-appeal is an emergency ask, and it's featuring one of their animals named Cheddar, who arrived at their shelter very ill and in need of immediate medical attention. So they do a great job telling that story here. In addition to that, they're letting their donors know, and most of you probably know that there's an increasing number of animals that are depending on them right now, with a lot of shelters being overcrowded. So they just added that in there. They've added some cute little paw print on the background, just some personalized stuff here, and some great wording. I just think they did a great job. So I'm going to turn it back over to Caitlin, and she's going to share some tips and talk about some email campaigns.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Heidi. So I'm going to talk about both those campaigns and some actionable items that you guys can take away. So first up, let's revisit Brother Wolf. So they incorporated a matching campaign. And if you were going to do something like this in your community, there's a couple of things to think about here. So with a matching campaign, just to reiterate again, for anybody on the call that's newer to fundraising, this would be where you would leverage a community partner or a philanthropic individual in your community where they would be willing to match donations that come in regardless of who's donating to your organization. So let's say a local law firm agreed to match up to $10,000 for any donations. So this is a great way to really get the word out about your campaign. Now, how would you be able to find somebody willing to do this? So there's a couple of different tactics and things that you could think about. And first and foremost, again, identify those community partners and even think through local celebrities. So maybe there's a really popular sheriff or popular mayor or maybe business owner that you can get to know. And also maybe see, like, do your research. As fundraisers, that making relationships with folks is so impactful to moving your mission forward. So think about like who has a tie to your mission and put together an ask. Another thing that can help, like, so let's say you've identified your prospect list, you've got your plan. Don't forget to pair this with some sort of sponsorship amenity list. So I would refer to this as a sponsorship packet, or maybe it's one page or a handout where you're letting the individual or company know, like, hey, in recognition of you doing this ask, here's what you're going to get from our organization in return. You're going to get co-branding opportunities. We're going to put your logo on 10 different emails. We're going to do shout outs once a week on social media. So whatever that looks like, and that can make it seem more appealing when you're pitching this matching idea to a partner. And we've got tons and tons of ideas on our blog, which is found on qgive.com. And I'll go over at the end where you can find some of this stuff. But if you need help building out a sponsorship plan or thinking through who you can make those asks to. Now, there's something else I wanted to talk about when it comes to community matches versus a matching gift. So we didn't necessarily talk about matching gifts with this last example from Brother Wolf, but I would be remiss not to share this with you all. But for anybody on the call that's not aware, matching gifts are typically a gift from an employer that it's going to match an employee's donation. This could look a little bit different depending on the employer's program. But for example, let's say I donated $50 to my local humane organization, and then my employer matched that $50. So that's a little bit of that difference between a community match versus an actual matching gift. For any QGIve clients that we have on the call, this is your reminder that we do have an integration with Cyber Grants that's completely free. We also integrate with HEP Data and double the donation. You do need to be a customer with those last two. The final point I want to leave when it comes to matching gifts is that 4 to 7 billion goes unclaimed every year. So make sure you're taking advantage of matching gifts if you can, because you don't want to leave any kind of money on the table. Now let's talk a little bit. So we went over some top tips with matching. So let's talk about Humane Society of Pikes Peak. So I love the example that Heidi showed us. So here's another picture of Cheddar. So you're putting a face to the need, you're making it tangible. And this is an email that they sent out in conjunction with that campaign that Heidi mentioned, where they're picking an animal every month, they're making an appeal. So they've got calls to action. They're telling you how much it costs to save each animal. So it's $40 per day that they're spending just to give them the basic care that they need. And then they're linking it back to the donation form. And again, I love the creative language that they use with the buttons that you see here on the screen. So it says, yes, I want to help heal pets in need. So that's a little bit more impactful than saying donate here, right? So get creative with the language that you're using. Now, while we're on the topic of emails, I wanted to share just one example from Rhode Island SPCA. So this wasn't one of the examples that Heidi showed us, but this was just an awesome newsletter that we came across. So don't be afraid to proactively reach out to your supporters. Maybe you could do a monthly or bi-monthly or quarterly newsletter, whatever makes sense for your organization to do. But in this newsletter, they're breaking down like, here are some big accomplishments month by month, here, save the dates, upcoming events. So make sure that you are proactively communicating. Now, Heidi mentioned a little bit about a banner image and how it wouldn't be too difficult to make this. When I was in fundraising, it was very, let's just say limited with my marketing and graphic design resources. So there was one free site I used called canva.com. And we'll make sure this goes in the follow-up email, but you can design images, social graphics. It can even help you design newsletters. And like I said, it is free. There is a paid version, but I always use the free version. So that's how you can feel a little bit like a graphic designer to help you accomplish some of these things. Now I'm going to turn it back to Heidi to show our next example with, I believe, New England Humane Society.
Awesome. Thanks, Caitlin. Yeah, so as Caitlin mentioned, this is the New England Humane Society, and they're raising funds for a new facility called Welcome to Hotel 2. And they've decided to use our Fund Hub component. Looks a lot like our peer-to-peer auction platform. What a Fund Hub is it's a place to show overall fundraising progress for a group of events or forums. So what their unique use case was they needed to create two separate donation forms, one for standard donations and one for sponsors to help sponsor the hotel with just a little bit larger donation amounts. But they wanted one kind of hub page for everybody to go to, see the progress, let them tell the story. So what they did is they linked out, so they're going to have two separate buttons here. This donate now links out to that just standard donation form that we talked about. Again, using those donation images. I mean, look at this feisty chi with his little tongue sticking out. Just adorable and really, really eye-catching. So let me jump back. You're going to see when I click sponsor the hotel, it's going to look very, very similar. So very similar form, just a little bit of a bigger ask and some bigger impact statements or descriptions of where those donations and how they're helping them fund this campaign. They've also added the thermometer that you're going to hear me talk about quite a bit. Again, dragging and dropping that in, talking about what their goal is, how much they've achieved, and what's the percentage of them getting to that goal. Also over here on the left, they added, which I think is really impactful, and video of their shelter and some of the repairs that they've had to make and kind of what it looks like now. And then if you just scroll down just a little bit, there's a lot of ways over here that you can help them with gifts of stock, other ways that you can help. But what I love down here at the bottom is they've actually added some slideshows of the different rooms that they are going to have at the new facility. I mean, who doesn't love the dog bone pool? But it just gives their supporters a way to see what they're trying to fund and what it's going to look like. The next one I'm going to share, and it's pretty popular among our animal clients, is the calendar contest. So they have a contest where the top 12 fundraisers get to be featured on a month in their calendar. What I love is that their homepage gives you all of the information for the event, what the contest is, how the winners are going to be selected. They even give people who raise $125, they even get to have their pet featured on a date. So not as big as a month, but hey, at least everybody that raises a little bit can actually participate on the calendar. They're using our store component. So peer-to-peer comes with the ability to sell items in a store so that people can click and go ahead and pre-order that calendar. So there's two options. They can do it without shipping or with shipping. And it's literally just a quick click, add how many you want and move on, add it to your cart. Love that functionality. I also love down here at the bottom on their banner image, they are showcasing last year's 12 winners. So really just a great way to show that here. Let me jump back over to the homepage. Another thing is they have a leaderboard and they've asked everybody that are their participants, all of their participants, to go ahead and put their pet as their avatar picture so that people know who they're voting for. And you can click down here and actually see a full leaderboard, which I love. So you can see who's in first, second, third, and fourth, and then get the full rankings down below. I'm going to show you guys, sorry for the clicking, just as what a participants page looks like. So this is Katie. Katie was in the lead. So this is her personal fundraising page. You can see she has her own goal. She can tell people to click here to vote now, $1 equals 1 vote. And she tells her story of Millie and Mabel, and they're both rescues. So it gives her to just personalize her page just a little bit. One other thing I want to point out is we actually have an integration with Facebook fundraisers. So your fundraisers in QGive can go ahead and connect and create a Facebook fundraiser right there in their QGive page. And connect them, and those two thermometers will talk to each other. So whether they donate on Facebook or on their QGive page, both thermometers will update. So just another way for them to help support you. This is Rich's page, one of their participants. You can see he didn't put any personal information, and that's okay. He did upload his pet here, and you can see his thermometer here. And then this is an image of the Facebook fundraiser that he did. Facebook kind of does their goals a little bit different than QGive, but you can see that they've raised $45, and you can see that here. So both thermometers are talking to each other, which I absolutely love. I'm going to turn it back over to Caitlin. I know she wants to dive in just a little bit.
Okay, yeah, so those were some great examples that Heidi shared with us. So I'm gonna first go back to the first example that we saw, which was that aggregate page, or if you're familiar with QGive, then you know that as a fund hub. So I love the idea behind this because you wanna make it easy for your supporters and your donors to find out everything that they wanna know about how they can help. So I have a screen grab of the example Heidi showed us. So again, we see that thermometer component, and I love how they're reiterating on the right side of that image to say, how can you help? So they're breaking it down so you can become a humane hero, you can donate, you can even give a gift of stock. So they're giving multiple ways. And also it's connecting again back out to a couple of different campaigns so you can easily support their efforts. I wanted to reference the video that Heidi told us about that's on this page. So again, they use our video widget, but I know that sometimes that can sound intimidating, especially when you don't have a lot of resources about, oh man, how am I going to get this video made? But I do want to share that even just having a steady hand and a smartphone can go a long way when it comes to having some video content. So let's say you wanted to get somebody on camera where they had just adopted a rescue to encourage others to do the same. So think about how you can incorporate video to help share your story because we know that's going to be really impactful for our donors. Now, the next example that Heidi had showed us, which again was using the store component and selling a pet contest calendar. So I love this idea. Don't be afraid to get creative when it comes to selling different items. So this particular campaign, it was that pet calendar contest, which I love because you're engaging the community. You're asking them, to sign up, solicit their friends and family to get votes. You see pictures of all the animals. So it's just a great way to get everybody involved. But again, don't be afraid to try something different. So maybe it's like a different kind of swag item, or it's a specific t-shirt to support and draw awareness to a campaign. So get creative with what you're doing. And also network in your community to find those folks that are willing to do some in-kind donations. So I would wheel and deal sponsorship to say, hey, if you guys could print these calendars for me, I can't really pay you everything, but we can trade some sponsorship. And so I remember being able to get some things made in that way. And it also really helped. Let's say if it was a printer that you were working with, they're getting some exposure for themselves as well. So don't be afraid to really network in your community and help uncover those folks that are willing to help. Another great thing when it comes to store purchases. So Heidi's referenced thermometers a few times, really to help inspire folks to get closer to goals, to inspire others to donate. And I love that now store purchases can actually go into individual and team goals. So that's another benefit if you are using QGIve peer-to-peer, but if regardless of the platform, if there's a way to do that, definitely look into it. And then also I love that they managed expectations around pickup or delivery for calendars. So they're giving a couple of different options. And this is really important when you are working with your community, because it'll help cut down on the back and forth of like, hey, when's my calendar going to be ready? When do I get this? So try to put as much information as you can to manage those expectations and send key communication before, during, and after your campaign to draw awareness to what you're doing. I'm going to turn it back over to Heidi, and we're going to talk about a peer-to-peer event.
Okay, so the next one we're going to talk about is from the Humane Society of Charlotte, and they used our peer-to-peer for their annual Pet Palooza Walk for the Animals event. This year's event was in person for the first time in 2 years. I have to say they did an amazing job. Very well branded, it's clean, it's easily digestible, tons and tons of information. And so they created that one-stop shop for participants to go to for the event. They can register for the event, register as a fundraiser. They can figure out where the parking is. They can figure out which vendors are going to be there. So I'm going to show you a few of those things here as I go through. I just want to scroll down a little bit. You can see that they've added that thermometer. They've made a section for the contest and the prizes. And then they're showcasing their sponsors down here with a sponsor widget. Again, having that leaderboard, creating that friendly competition. But I want to click and spend a little bit of time on this section. So this toolbar is customizable. It can link out to anything that you needed to. So what I think they did the best on this is creating what we call this event map. So it's a vendor map. So maybe you want to plan your day. Maybe you don't have all day. Maybe you have a limited amount of time and you just want to know where certain vendors are going to be. So they did a great job with this diagram. You can see over to the right is the map. It tells you where the food trucks are, which is always important. And then if you scroll down, it talks about parking and transportation. So exactly where you should park, if you're a sponsor or a vendor, where you should park, where you shouldn't park. And then what I love is we all know QR codes have made a comeback. So they actually created a QR code and put it here on their site, telling people the public transportation information and the bus routes that can get people to the event. They've also added some driving directions, which I love. So just like I said, that one-stop shop, which we always recommend. I think they did a wonderful job. The next thing I'm going to show you, so this is their Facebook page. They actually, did some filming while they were at the event and created a cute little TikTok video thanking their supporters and just a recap with all the people and the pets. And I just think that's super important, is sending that thank you message. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Caitlin.
Right. So love that they used a TikTok video. So I have to be honest, I don't have a TikTok, but if you are on it, definitely a great way to engage. So let's break down a couple of top tips from this peer-to-peer event, Pet Palooza. So we talked about peer-to-peer a little bit in the beginning of the call. So again, this is where you're recruiting fundraisers to fundraise on your behalf. You're getting them set up with their digital page to collect those donations, and they're soliciting their friends and family members to support them. So there's a couple, well, I don't want to say a couple, there's probably hundreds and hundreds of ideas of different things you could do for a peer-to-peer in-person event. And we do have a lot of ideas on our blog that you can access for free. So common things you could do would be like a fun run or a 5K, or you could do more of a festival type style, which is what Pet Palooza was. So they combined it with, I believe, a little bit of a fun walk, fun run, plus the festival component where they had vendors come and set up and where you could interact with the community. So this could be something that you charge admission to, or it could be a free community event to get the word out. So that's kind of up to you and your organization of how you want to do it, but sky's the limit when it comes to different ideas. And then also you could work a peer-to-peer event where it's more of like a network fundraiser where you're recruiting a core group of folks to raise money, and maybe you don't have a big event at the end. So lots of ideas, lots of ways you can customize it and make it work for you. Now with Pet Palooza, so I am a sucker for an event map. This is something that I would do for one of a 5K that I would host where there were almost 5,000 participants coming. And one of the things that is on a lot of people's minds, especially when it's open to the public, is where do I park? And I am someone that has parking anxiety. I'm going to look up all the information I can before I go somewhere. So think about things from your attendees' perspective. So have all of that information in that one-stop shop, like Heidi referenced, so folks know where to go. And this event map, again, I'm going to plug Canva. You can make something like this in Canva if you don't have fancy graphic design software, so don't be intimidated, even if it looks simpler than this, but just explain where people need to park and where vendors need to park and sponsors. And again, it's going to cut down on that back and forth between you and your staff and people that are coming to the event. Couple other things I want to note when it comes to peer-to-peer is the gamification element. So you can make it really fun for people to raise money on your behalf. And you can do this by combining digital and tangible incentives. So you can see on the screen here, I have what we refer to as badges. So you can award badges when fundraisers reach certain milestones. So within QGIve, if you're a QGIve client, this is something that you can customize and set those milestones. But for example, let's say I wanted to be a part of the pup club. I had to raise $100, then I would get a badge. Now, if you were going to combine a tangible incentive with that, maybe they get a t-shirt with it. So just think outside of the box when it comes to how you want to incentivize your fundraisers and make it fun for them to raise money for your organization. Now I wanted to spend a little bit on social media promotion. So Humane Society of Charlotte, they did a great job of not only doing that TikTok video at the end and sharing it on Facebook for those of us that don't have TikTok, but leading up to the event, they let people know what to expect to excite their supporters. They're telling you what's going to happen. There's live music, there's a beer garden. They're giving you a clear call to action as far as where you need to go to learn more so you can get set up and register and attend. So love that. And another great thing that they did is they worked with their partners to cross promote on their own social media pages. So this, again, it's helping you get the word out to people that may not have otherwise heard about your organization. So love that they really worked with their supporters to do that. Now I'm going to turn it over back to Heidi to share a little bit about an auction.
Great. So I'm so excited for anybody that has used our auction platform, or even if you haven't, we have some new auction enhancements coming very soon that I'm super excited about. But in the meantime, I'm going to share this event. It's from the Mary S. Roberts Pet Adoption Center. So they used our auction platform for their 30th annual Walk with Animals event. So instead of using peer-to-peer, they chose to use the auction. As you can see it, the look and feel of our auction platform looks very much like our peer-to-peer, just has a little bit different functionality. Obviously, it doesn't have that fundraising component, but it does have the ability for your participants to bid on silent live auctions, as well as that fund a need and purchase some store items as well. They did a great job branding this event. I mean, I love, again, that banner image that we always talk about. It just captures you right away. And then they also included their 2022 cover model Bella here that you can see, the thermometer, and they even surpassed their goal. I also love, so down here is where you can see the items that are up for bid. You can choose, maybe you're interested in trips like me. I love to travel. I'd probably click on the Hawaii button, but you can click and kind of filter through on what you're interested. You can click on the item, go ahead and register to bid. So I just think that they did a great job. It's simple and very, very well done. So I'm going to turn it back over to Caitlin.
Yes, love this example. And just a couple top tips before we move on to talking about text messages. But think through what your main revenue streams are going to be for your auction. So when I hosted an auction, obviously your auction items, but don't forget to leverage sponsorship. So that was a big area of where I would get some additional income to support. And if you are having an in-person event of some kind paired with your auction, of course, ticket sales. So make sure you're getting out there and you're promoting so people know how to get involved with your auction. And then other top tips that we kind of talked about the last peer-to-peer example with that Pet Palooza is managing expectations of your attendees. So make sure you have all the information that they need to know on the page. If you are having, even if it's just an online auction, there are still some logistical things that they may want to know. And don't forget to leverage social media when it comes to highlighting some of those big ticket items. So that's a little bit about auctions. And now I wanted to share a little bit about text fundraising. So lots of great stats here. And again, you guys are going to get a copy of this slide deck, but just know that 98% of text messages are read within the first 5 minutes of receipt. So it's really important that you're engaging your supporters with text fundraising. And this could be something that you do whether as a standalone effort. So maybe you just have a list of folks, you're letting them know like, hey, we have a special campaign going on for Giving Tuesday. Get to this form and you can leave a donation, or it could be something that you pair with an event. So we've got a lot of great information on how to really utilize text messaging as standalone or with an event. And we will have some follow-up information in our resource email that you guys will get tomorrow. Another cool way you could use text messaging at an event is, let's say you had an auction and it was in person and you had an event program and there's that QR code that they could scan to make an additional donation. So especially during that call to the heart or that mission moment where you have somebody speaking and you're making that ask at the event. So love text messaging for that. So I hope that you all have really enjoyed some of the information that we've shared with you today. And I hope that it's challenged you to maybe think about how to do something differently or enhance some efforts that you're already doing with your fundraising efforts. These are just a few of the clients that we help, but we appreciate and want to say thank you to everyone on the call. We know it's important now more than ever with just so many animals in help or that need help and need support. And thank you again from Heidi and I as two animal lovers for everything that you guys are doing in your community. Now, as far as those resources, so if you are a QGIve client, you know that you can reach us for unlimited support, unlimited training for you, your staff, your volunteers. So don't be afraid, you know how to find us. And Heidi's team does such a great job with sharing different ideas and helping our clients do the most to move their mission forward. If you aren't a QGIve client, don't worry, we still got some resources for you. So by visiting our website, you can get to our blog. We've got templates. We've got a past library of on-demand webinars like this one on so many different topics. So don't be afraid to browse around on there and see if you can find something that can help you. Now I'm going to turn it back over to my colleague, Kim, who did our trivia at the beginning of the call to see if we had any questions that we can answer for you guys today.
So, well, thank you, ladies. I thought some of those examples were definitely inspirational. So I too am soft at the heart with the animals. I have 4 St. Bernards. You guys all heard me right. So I so far only see one question. So this would be a great time for those of you to if you have a question, to put it into Q&A, but we're going to field one from a Caitlin with a different spelling. Caitlin has asked, does this automatically sync with cyber grants and other programs, or is that a setting? I've been receiving checks and processing them manually, and I'd love to alleviate that extra work.
That's a great question. And Heidi, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So yes, Caitlin, so you do have to be sure you're registered, and it is automatic. So once you get those put into QGIve, we just need to make sure that you have it set up in your QGIve account. So if you're a QGIve client, we'll reach out, or you can reach out to us, and I'll be happy to show you how the whole thing works.
Okay, I know we had a couple questions that were pre-submitted, and we can go there really quickly. Someone had asked about the integration for matching gifts. Do you have any other integrations?
Yes, we absolutely do. And you can get to, if you navigate to our website, we do have a page on integrations where it lists common ones that we have. But so if you were needed to send emails out, we integrate with Emma and MailChimp. We integrate with Salesforce and a couple of other CRMs. Heidi, what are some other integrations from your perspective that I'm missing here? Because I know we've got a ton.
Sure, yeah. So it's Donor Perfect, Bloomerang, Salesforce are obviously the bigger ones on the CRM side. A newer one is eTapestry. We're working on a Razor's Edge direct integration as we speak, as well as QuickBooks and some of those mail ones that Caitlin mentioned.
Awesome.
Well, awesome. And then I had one other question, unless anyone decides to type one in additionally, but what would you recommend for hosting an event that isn't peer-to-peer or auction-based?
Sure, I can take that one too. So we do have standard events that come on our standard donation forms. And I'm so excited to tell you in the next couple of short months, we have revamped our standard event registration. It's going to be simply amazing. I know I said that about auctions, but we are super excited. And it's also going to include table seating. So we cannot wait.
Yeah. Well, that's all we have for the moment for Q&A. Oh, wait. Nope. As I say that, Caitlin had a follow-up question. She said, my colleague wants to know if there are any other resources to reference for peer-to-peer.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we've got a ton of resources for peer-to-peer. So in fact, I think in the follow-up email, we will be sharing a link to our peer-to-peer toolkit. But even if you just go to our site and go to our blog and type in peer-to-peer, you could find event ideas. You can find information about like how to build out sponsorship packets, all sorts of great stuff. I don't know if there was something specific you were looking for with how to do peer-to-peer, Caitlin. So I don't know if that quite answers your question. But like I said, we will have a lot of things going up in that follow-up email, and we've got a ton of information on our blog to help.
And let's see, Caitlin said, nope, that's awesome. And they'll be following up. So that's all we have with Q&A, ladies.
Perfect. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. And like it says on the screen here, we'd love to hear from you. So don't be afraid to reach out, and we hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.